But before you went in, we talked about the skank meth addict Fowler lived with? Patty something, I said. Patty Paradise, a.k.a. Patricia Cocott, McGoey said. I had someone go to her crib, see if she'd be willing to come down and talk some sense into her boy. And the detective got a laptop and showed me the most recent picture of Patty Paradise. She was naked, slumped in a bathtub. She had 2 bullet holes in her forehead and split skin and angry bruising along her forearms and shins. Clear indications she'd been electrocuted before being shot. Chapter 27. As New and his men prepared an assault plan based on what I'd told them about the layout of the house and the position of the hostages, Ramiro and other officers began calling the Nicholson residence again, trying to make a connection with Henry Fowler once more. Despite the coffee and the food, I was suddenly exhausted. I told McGoey I was going to catch a catnap, but to wake me if Fowler answered. The van was equipped with 2 bunks that folded down off the wall. I grabbed a blanket, lay down, and closed my eyes. I've always been one of those people who can fall asleep at a moment's notice. It's a skill that's handy when you're involved with this kind of drawn-out fiasco. But that night, I couldn't fall asleep. Not at first, at least. My brain kept replaying what Fowler had said and done. I tried to use what he told me to connect the man he had been with the animal he was now. I don't believe him, I thought as I finally drifted off to sleep. There's something going on here that we're not seeing. Chapter 28. Nobody at the Crosses gets up earlier than Nana, not even on Christmas. That morning she rose at 4:45. First thing she did was to dial up the thermostat in the house and put up the coffee, as she liked to say. Then she turned on the lights on the tree, brought a big CVS shopping bag into the living room, and got started on the stockings. Filling the stockings was her job. She enjoyed it immensely, and everybody seemed to like the candy and the dollar store goodies as much as the pricier shirts and sweaters and books and electronic games. Nana doled out the tiny plastic puzzles and Hershey bars and ballpoint pens. As always, each of the stocking gifts had a double meaning. She gave Bree a disposable lighter. It was Nana's way of telling her that she knew Bree sneaked an occasional cigarette. The old woman put a bottle of OPI nail polish in Ava's stocking, thinking it might inspire the girl to stop biting her nails. She dropped iPod earbuds into Damon's stocking. A bright red hair clip went into Janny's, and the one-handed flosser was for Alex. Alex, she said softly. She looked out the front window. It was still coming down, and snow was piled more than a foot high on the cars, but there was no sign of her grandson. My, she heard someone say. Santa's helpers get younger and prettier every year. Nana turned around and saw Bree standing at the edge of the living room. They hugged and wished each other a Merry Christmas, both of them knowing it wasn't all that merry without Alex in the house. Did you get any sleep? Nana asked. Not a wink. Makes 2 of us, Nana said. Terrible knot in my stomach all night. They drank coffee and kept each other company. Janny and Damon and Ava joined them just as Christmas Day was dawning. Everyone smiled and hugged and said Merry Christmas, but the usual rush to rip open gifts just wasn't there. What this Christmas morning needs is a good hot breakfast, Nana said. They all pretended to agree with her. Well, let's get into the kitchen and get to work. You don't think I'm going to fix it all by myself, do you? Said Nana. I need helpers. The children followed her into the kitchen. Bree said she'd join them in a minute. I love cracking eggs. Save that job for me, she called after them. Then she picked up the remote and flicked on the television. Words at the bottom of the screen said, Christmas hostage crisis. There was a shot of the big, handsome house in Georgetown. Snow and people and cops were everywhere. Then there was Alex, carrying a woman from the house where the lunatic had been holed up. The news anchor identified her as Congressman Brandywine's wife and said, Detective Cross risked his life and entered the house unarmed to negotiate face-to-face with the madman. One life has been saved, but from what we understand, another one hangs in the balance. Fowler shot and wounded his ex-wife's husband. He'd gone into the house unarmed. Someone had been shot inside. Bree thought about that and said softly, as if the TV could hear her, "Oh, Alex, Alex, Alex. I don't know if I can bear where you go." Then she changed the channel. But Channel 4 had the identical story. That network, however, had a reporter on the scene. She held a microphone and was talking to the camera. "From super lawyer to drug addict to madman, that's the road Henry Fowler took to arrive here this Christmas morning." Bree punched power, threw the remote down. She rubbed her sleeve against her damp eyes. Then she shouted toward the kitchen, "Nobody better have touched those eggs!" Chapter 29. I felt someone shaking me. I jerked awake and was surprised to see Detective McGoey standing in a weak, pale light. "It's Fowler," he said. A couple of minutes ago it sounded like he was going rhino in there, and New was getting ready to give his men the go to assault when Fowler answered the phone, finally. "He's asking for you, Alex." I nodded, sat up, shook the cobwebs from my head. "Time is it?" 6:15, McGoey said. "I slept for 4 hours?" I said. "There was no reason to wake you until now," he said. I nodded dumbly, followed him toward the front of the van and Ramiro, who held out a phone to me. "This is Cross," I said.
"I'm disappointed in you,"
announced Fowler's voice.
"Very disappointed."
"Why?"
"You betrayed me. I've been looking out my windows. You've got me surrounded by an army."
"That's the way it usually works when you're armed to the teeth and you don't talk to us."
"Are they coming in after me? Are they going to shoot their way in?"
"Unless you talk to us."
"Coming in here would be a mistake. All you would find are bodies around the Christmas tree, mine included."
"But you'll talk to me? Help me try to figure out a way to avoid that?" He didn't reply, but he didn't hang up either. "Is Dr. Nicholson still alive?"
"Barry? Sure, he's alive, but he's got a hell of a stomachache."
"Let him go. Let me come in there with another unarmed officer and get him."
"No. I'm enjoying his suffering."
"Then let someone else in there go. One of your children." Silence. And then he said,
"A goodwill gesture? Isn't that what you said it would be?"
"That's right."
"Wish granted. I'm sending out the only one in this house I really care about."
New knocked on the wall, signaled me toward the van's side window. I got up, saw the front door open. A black Labrador retriever with a red bow around its neck slunk out, and it startled and began to run away, its tail between its legs, when the door slammed shut. Chapter 30. Fowler was definitely toying with us, demonstrating that even when he was in mortal danger, with threats from the snipers and SWAT assaulters all around him, he was the one decided who lived, who died. I could have gone the anger route, called him on it, put more pressure on him, but something told me it would backfire. "You love your dog, Fowler?" I asked.
"What kind of man doesn't love his dog?"
"A man who has a cat."
"That's funny, Cross."
"I appreciate you letting the dog go. What's the dog's name?"
"Mindy."
"We thank you for releasing Mindy, and I assure you she'll be well cared for. But I need more, Fowler. If I'm going to keep these trained professionals from kicking down your door and trying to blow your head off before you can hurt anyone else. A long silence.
Like what?
I looked over at New and McGoey and then said, I want to come in again. With medical personnel. I want to take Barry out of there. Fowler began to scream, finally going rhino. We heard things breaking, and then he came back on the line.
I don't care what you want. I want what I want. Barry is gonna die. You got that? He's gonna die for what he did to me, and so is my ex-wife. They took my life. Now I'm gonna take theirs. I'm gonna kill them all.
I'm coming in, Henry, I said. Right now. But he'd hung up. Chapter 31. Pancakes or waffles? Nana asked in a voice so cheerful that everybody knew it was put on. Add to that the fact that both Janny, always pro-waffle, and Damon, fiercely pro-pancake, said they didn't really care, and it was obvious that worry about Alex had pretty much sucked the joy right out of the holiday. It's Christmas, Nana finally said. Why don't I just make both? Pancakes and waffles coming up. No response from the kids. Suddenly Nana yanked off her apron and flung it to the kitchen floor. Enough of this! She shouted and began to march up and down, swinging her fists like she was punching the heavy bag in the basement. That got everyone's attention. Now, you all listen to me, Nana said, snatching up a wooden mixing spoon and shaking it at them. I don't like this terrible situation any more than you do. I've got a grandson who's missing for Christmas. Does it make me gloomy? Does it make me angry? Does it make me sad? She peered around at them in the intimidating way she'd perfected as a vice principal. The answer to all three of those questions is yes. It certainly does. My heart's as heavy as yours. I could burst into tears any minute. Fact is, I did, twice last night, and I may do it again. But the truth is, life has to be lived. This Christmas is today, now. This Christmas will never come again. And I don't mean to be giving a holiday sermon, but Christmas is about hope and faith, and we'd all better realize that. You hear me? Hope and faith. You hear me? Except for bacon popping in the frying pan, the room was silent. I said, you hear me. It's hard to feel hope and faith when you're sick to your stomach, said Janny. No one who doesn't live in a police family can understand what this feels like, Nana. It sucks, Damon added. I don't disagree with any of that, their great-grandmother said. If it were easy, I wouldn't have to be delivering this lecture. Okay, we embrace hope and faith, Bree said. She squeezed Nana's shoulders and gave her a kiss. At least, I do. Now that's fine, Nana said. I hope your stepchildren will have the same common sense. Now, whoever dropped my apron on the floor, please pick it up and give it to me. Everyone laughed. A little. Then we'll have a real fine breakfast, she went on. And then we'll go into the living room and we'll each open up one gift. And then what? Ava asked. Then Damon will go out and shovel the front walk. So when his father gets home, we can all go to church. Chapter 32. You are not going back in there, Lieutenant New said. I'll never be able to look your wife in the eye again. Join the club on that one, I said, jumping up. But I've got to go back in there, or that doctor is dead and maybe the others too. And I have a plan. And that plan is? McGoey asked. I told New that while I'd slept, part of my mind must have worked out what was really behind Fowler's fall from glory and his actions of the past 24 hours. We can use it, I think, I said, and I told him what I was considering. Shit,